my name is Anita Desai. For those of you who don't know me, I am the Executive Director of St. Leonard Society of Canada. And I just want to note again that we are recording today's session and it's going to be made available on our YouTube channel sometime shortly after the event. I know sometimes people register for these things and then don't get a chance to attend. So that's why we do that, so that the information can be made available to people to learn from our panelists. So if you prefer to maintain your privacy, now is a great time to, change your name and switch off your camera, and then we'll just make sure that that's not included for when we post things online. So I'll get us started with the acknowledgement that St. Leonard Society of Canada is located in Ottawa on the traditional unceded Anishinaabe and Algonquin territory. Our 10 member organizations within our national network are located on various traditional unceded lands across the country, as are many of you who are gathering alongside us today from places that are home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. Please feel free to drop your name and where you're from in the chat, and we'll get to know you a little bit that way, and we'll certainly make time for some questions a little bit later on in our session. So for those of you who are new to our work, St. Leonard's Canada is a national membership-based organization bringing together a network of individuals and organizations to collectively address the needs of people who are involved in the justice system. Beginning with supportive housing, we work together to advocate for safer, healthier, and more inclusive communities. Our purpose as an organization at St. Leonard's Canada is to promote humane and informed criminal and social justice policy, practice, and responsible leadership to foster safer communities. So this webinar is part of our Community Connections webinar series, which will continue monthly until this summer. So for those of you, I don't know if anyone's joining us for the first time. We've been doing this since the fall, but for those of you who are joining us for the first time, this series aims to promote public education to advance humane and informed criminal and social justice policies and practices. Each session features guest speakers who will explore what's working, what's possible, and what still needs to change on key social and criminal justice issues, particularly those that are relevant to the federal framework to reduce recidivism. So today's session examines the role of positive support networks in reducing recidivism, the barriers individuals face when building these networks, and future directions for strengthening access to support systems. So before we jump in, I did just want to note that there is a progress report from 2025 from Public Safety on the federal framework to reduce recidivism. And I do want to note that that report states that positive social networks play a crucial role in reducing recidivism by providing emotional, social, and practical support that helps individuals reintegrate into society more successfully. As individuals often face stigma and isolation, having positive relationships with family, friends, community, and mentors provides encouragement, reduces stress, and fosters a sense of belonging. These networks can offer guidance in making better life choices and helping individuals to avoid negative influences. They can also provide connections to job opportunities, vocational training, and educational programs, and help individuals navigate essential services such as housing, healthcare, addiction treatment, and mental health counseling. Being part of a supportive community reinforces a sense of purpose, self-worth, and hope for the future, and encourages individuals to adopt positive behaviors. So that's sort of public safety's framing of the value of positive support networks. And I'm really pleased to see that this acknowledgement includes the role that mentors like Dirk and many others play in reducing recidivism, and just that they're part of this thread that connects so many of the other pillars of the framework, such as housing, employment, education, and health. So we're going to unpack that a little bit further today, and with our session. And I'm really pleased to introduce you to our esteemed panelist, Dirk Young. I will just note that one of our speakers, Leanna McDonald, is unable to present with us today, but Dirk is going to step in and really share his experience as the outreach peer support worker with St. Leonard's House, Windsor, and really, I think, speak to some of those things that public safety has named that we've known for for well before 2025, but which I think are really critical roles that mentors can play. So, Dirk, I'm going to hand it over to you now to introduce yourself to our group, and we'll stick handle some questions after your presentation. But maybe you can just speak a little bit about what you do, and if any of the things from this, what public safety has said about the value of positive support networks strikes a chord with you, then feel free to weigh into that as well. But I'm going to pass it over to you, my friend.
All right. Well, hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Um, I'm a little shy right now. I don't really have anything prepared as a presentation. I was expecting to piggyback my friend and coworker, and I found out an hour ago that they were unable to attend this. So, yes, my name is Dirk Young. I served 15 years in the federal penitentiary. I am also a lifer, serving second degree murder was my sentence. I got life 13. I did 15 years incarceration. I was released to St. Leonard's House, Windsor. I've been out in the community for 10 years now, and for the last 4 years, I believe I've been in this role as a peer support worker. And personally, it gives me purpose. Um, I enjoy it, even though I'm tired. I'm currently, right now, in front of you, fighting the urge to go have a nap. So, for example, this morning I got up, answered a few phone calls from men that are incarcerated. Um, Came to the halfway house, picked up a elderly fellow that's about to move out, but he's going on Friday for his G2. But obviously the rules have changed since he's been incarcerated, so we're driving around and I have to teach him a little bit about parallel parking, things of that nature. And then he takes me to the parole office because, yeah, I'm still on parole. So 11:30, I go wait for my parole officer, meet my parole officer. I come back here. When this is done, I'm going to be taking another individual from the halfway house today to go possibly get some work in the community. And at 4:30, another fella also would like to learn how to drive for his G2. And I think today is just a Wednesday. So I'm more of a question and answer type of person. Um, please fire some questions so I can warm up and get rid of a little bit of this anxiety that I feel right now because I'm a little lost in what to say, what not, what to say. Yeah, so if anybody has a question for me, it helps me warm up a little bit and get my mind flowing. Please and thank you.
Yeah, Dirk, maybe I'll lean into that a little bit. And I got your back on this too. So
Yeah,
we're gonna do this together. But I think that's a great opportunity to invite people to um, ask questions in the chat. Please feel free to do that, and we'll moderate those and share them with Dirk. Maybe
mhm,
I'll start a little bit to give people a little bit more context of why you felt you wanted to do this work and how you got involved in doing peer support work would be a great place to maybe start. And then I'm sure that will answer Pam's question too, but about what makes you such a good support worker. But I think if you can give people a little bit of that history, how you got started, and why you keep taking people out to learn how to drive and do all those wonderful things
yeah,
that you get to do each day. But maybe tell us a little bit about how you got started.
no problem. So during my incarceration, I started off in a maximum institution. And from then, we're going back almost what, like 20 years now, Catherine? And there was a program, and Rick Sauvier, Mr. Rick Sauvier was part of it, and John Dunbar, rest in peace. But they would come back into the institutions and talk about the roles that they do on the outside. And it gave me a bigger belief, a bigger picture to look at than just the little walls I was in front of. So it created hope. And having those peer support from the beginning, all the journey as I cascaded through the system, I feel having that support motivated me and pushed me, and having somebody that's walked the walk, um, so to speak, influenced me to, upon being released, I wanted to stay in touch with guys because I think it's called survivor's guilt. Rick Sylvia used to tell me about it. You feel like you've left your common man behind, and a lot of people that go to prison, they feel like there's some sort it's similar to war, almost like being a soldier. It's weird, it's hard to explain, but you feel you're leaving other guys in the battlefield. So I wanted to come back and create some hope for the guys I felt like I left behind. So with that being said, when the opportunity came for me to be able to go to the institutions and do peer support and help lifers and be allowed to reach out to them and send them birthday cards and receive phone calls and have discussions with them, talk about the outsides, the struggles. Like I said, it created purpose within myself and it just became a part of my identity, but it all started with St. Leonard's House, Windsor, with their program that was created many years ago, I think early 80s, possibly 79, 90s maybe. I think I might have the dates mixed up because that's when they removed the death penalty in Canada was 79, 80, I think. So I believe,
1976.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. And with Windsor being the very first halfway house ever created, and one of the first houses ever that allow lifers to come there, and then lifers get to hang out with lifers and learn from each other, that was just very intriguing to me. So having that support throughout the whole process of trying to be released is something that I feel empowers me, and I want to continue it. So yes, that's what put me on to it. But at first, I had my struggles upon release. I've never worked before. There was nobody really there to show me how to get employment, even though I had all the supports. There was nobody really to teach me how to drive or utilize certain tools on a construction site. So going through that process and making those mistakes and having those type of embarrassments, I think has helped me and gave me the ammunition to help others because I don't want them to go through the same process I did, for example, working on a construction site and the boss asks you to go get a certain tool. Well, I didn't even know what that tool was. So obviously I have to go through somebody saying, well, that's the wrong tool, blah, 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 blah. So for me, now that I've went through that process, I can teach other guys how not to have that type of embarrassment and I can show them different tools, how to use tools. But yes, I hope that explains a little bit of how I slipped into it. Plus, Catherine kind of bullied me 5 years ago. 'Cause I was doing it anyways. I was still in touch with people, reaching out to them, trying to live a pro-social life on my own, separate myself from the incarceration, create a new identity in the community for myself, and move on. And then when the opportunity came for a position to be a peer support worker, I didn't accept it right away. It took about 8 months of Catherine bullying me. And I'm very happy that she did. I have no regrets, and I'm very proud that I made that decision. And because a lot of men, when they get released, the truth is they want to put it behind them. So moving forward is one thing, but a lot of men want to put it behind them. So having that balance of being able to straddle your incarceration with moving forward and being pro-social in the community, I almost let go of all of that so I can just have a new identity. But this way, makes me feel like I don't have to let go of those 15 years. I can still have something there.
Thank you, Dirk. That's a great summary of how you got involved and why you do it. And there's lots of questions coming into the chat, so I'm gonna just jump right in if that works for you, unless there's anything
Sure.
else you really want to say before we jump into the questions.
No, no. If I
Okay,
ramble, just click your fingers or
I
something.
will.
I'm
I
like a
know.
dog,
I'll reel you
like
in.
a
I'll reel
dog
you
that
in.
sees a squirrel. Just
I'll
right
keep you on
there.
track, I promise.
Thank you.
All right, so first question is from our friend Pam. What makes a good support worker such as yourself? What do you think the qualities are that make you a good worker?
Um, I would like to say the typical caring, listening, things of that nature, but it's also being able to be trusted enough to speak the truth. So I have certain guys with certain behaviors, but I've built that friendship with them and that trust with them where I can tell them, you have to knock that off. That's not, you have to be able to deal with people's negativity in a correct form without it turning into a debate or losing a friendship. And I feel that that's helped a lot for me as a peer support worker. Not only the positive side of it in regards to caring and listening and being there, um, answering the phone when they need you, supporting them in the correct way, but being able to, correct them sometimes in their belief systems and get them back on track of you're okay to be triggered. How you're feeling is accepted. However, let's remember to challenge these together. And I think that works.
Yeah, it's a great point. Next question is from Michael. It says, "Hey Dirk, good to see you again.
Hi,
How do
Mike.
you find that the folks you work with respond to you? Are they open to what you have to say? Does it take some convincing? Are they resistant?" And there's Michael. And yeah, just if you can speak to, yeah, people's response to you generally.
Once they know me, their response is great, and I still have a decent reputation within all the institutions. So word of mouth almost. So people have heard of me prior to being released, and I think that positive reputation helps me. Um, but at the same time, some people don't know me, so they're a little bit wary, and I have to wear different hats within this job that I do. So I can't just ambush somebody and say, "Hey, I'm the peer support worker. We're going out." I don't pressure nobody. I wait for them to realize, oh, Dirk's one of us. Because at first, sometimes they come to the halfway house, they don't know nothing about peer support, Lifeline. They've heard about lifers because they were incarcerated, but they don't know nothing about the program. So I appear to be a staff member. So that is something I have to often struggle with, playing the devil's advocate on both sides and trying to make both sides see each other's point of view. Even with the staff at St. Leonard's, I sometimes have to explain, do you know how that might have come across? How a person like me, while I was incarcerated, might have seen that. And then I also have to play that role when I'm dealing with like some of the residents because they believe that some of the staff here is CSC. So I have to inform them that they're not CSC. This is a private organization. And so I think a little bit of knowledge helps in having those conversations, but sometimes I have to be patient and wait for people to come to me and accept me. And like I said, it's word of mouth after a while.
Mhm.
So it's more like, no, go to Dirk, ask Dirk, see Dirk, and coming through for them, whether they're in a positive way or a bad way. So I have guys that were here. I don't want them to feel like another number or another piece in the assembly line. So if they do get um, suspended and they go back, I'm one of the first people to send them a letter so they feel like they still have a name. They were here, people care. And I think that helps me keep that rapport amongst the men. Because obviously, the man, there's 20 something men here, they're going to talk about Dirk when I'm not in the room. So having those conversations or people will be like, oh, no, it's not like that. Talk to Dirk. But I think that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, works, definitely works for me.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, that sort of names attention too, right? In why there's value in having somebody with your experience to be able to share and feel like there's a different sense of a relationship
Yeah.
that they have with you.
And
Um,
also the trust. They
yeah.
realize that I'm not running back to the staff. That's
Can
not
you
my
speak a
job.
little bit to the trust piece, like in terms of what's different about trusting you versus trusting a halfway house staff versus trusting somebody that works for CSC?
The negativity of being incarcerated and having everything captured. For example, a person might legitimately want to go and get counseling. So they seek counseling while they're incarcerated, but they're seen through a CSC lens. It becomes documented, and those documentations can often come back to haunt them down the road when they're going for certain um, achievements or work releases, things of that nature. So they're, what's the word, reluctant when they
Mhm.
get released to seek that type of help. So we're staff members. It's like, no, I've been down this path before. There's going to be a documentation. Everyone's going to have a terminology. You're going to write it a certain way. So there's that fear with me. There's no fear because they know I'm not documenting in that nature. If something's serious, of course, I got to go and talk to my captain, the executive director of the halfway house, and say I have a concern. But just throughout conversations or certain things, I don't have to document that. Other staff members have to document everything. When they walk around the house, if somebody's staying up late till 3 o'clock in the morning, it gets written down. If this or that or somebody, so it's a lot different when it comes to me compared to a staff member. Once they realize that even though I'm hired by St. Leonard's and my contract says I'm a staff member, once the men realize that, oh, Dirk is a lifer, an ex-con, he's walked the walk, he's been there. And I don't pretend to everybody that life is wonderful just because we're released. I don't act like it's all butterflies and rainbows. And I'm not one of those people that will say, the worst day I have out here is better than any day I've had in prison. I will never speak those words. I respect them and I understand them, the metaphor behind it. But at the same time, I was there for 15 years. I had some great times during the incarceration because that's where I was. So, yes, I did have moments of happiness playing sports, getting the winning goal, and things of that nature. I don't really relate with everything out here has to be beautiful just because you're released. So sometimes I tell people it's all right to feel like you had a shit day.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, I'm going to move in. We've got lots of questions coming in, so I'm going to keep moving through them. The next question is from Maris. Can you speak to us about the work you do with CSC and whether you assist them in having a better understanding of the reality of lifers and their challenges? Also, are POs open to working with you? Oh, so
Um,
maybe we'll do the first part of that.
yeah,
How you work with CSC and whether you assist them in having a better understanding of the reality of lifers and their challenges.
I've had a few incidences where I've worked with CSC and they've allowed me to have a voice in the conversation. But I often feel that even though I have a voice in the conversation, it just falls upon deaf ears. I almost feel like you're just going through the actions and the motions and nothing ever is really listened to correctly. However, out here with Windsor Parole and Windsor Halfway House, with the connections that they work together almost as a team, I feel like a lot of the parole officers out here actually do call me in and want to talk to me and ask me about their guys and what I could do, or come to me and ask me to check on some of their guys that are in the community that might be elderly. So I feel like I've built that rapport with CSC parole officers in Windsor, and I still have some rapports with IPOs, obviously from the inside, that we can discuss certain residents that may or may not be sent back. I have lifers. I've reached out to people. I feel if I have a certain relationship with that individual from CSC, my words have more weight.
Mhm.
But as an organization and overall, they don't really reach out to me for any knowledge at all. And I feel like that's quite saddening because there's a lot of knowledge amongst all lifers and all peer support workers to be listened to. There should be more of us actually on the inside, not just the ones that have been released, like Rick Sovey and myself going back. I believe there should be a peer support system in place with some sort of institutional pay where it alleviates some of the pressures for the staff members in the CSC, because now you have committee members, you have people that are in charge of there might be the president of the BIFA program. They always utilize these individuals to try to talk to people. Well, if you had a peer support worker in there that was actually trying to get them motivated to move forward and look beyond the fence, look beyond the brick wall, I think that would be beneficial.
Thank you. Okay, next question is, just make sure I'm not missing anybody, from Abdul. What are the main barriers or challenges related to individuals reintegrating into the community?
Um, besides their own personal struggles, sometimes psychological, sometimes addiction issues, um, even with the back and forth of the CSC, I honestly believe the main struggle for a person to be released, especially if they're on life, always comes down to the IPOs. I can't shift from that version. That's just what I've learned while I was in prison for 15 years. It's also been my truth of what I've witnessed and seen upon my release in the last 10 years. I really do believe it has to be at the bottom and come up. CSC, the elites, I believe, send down a memo and it gets passed to the MAIs and this and that. And it's supposed to change, but people already have their nepotism, the way they do things. So I think if you start at the bottom and have somebody go in there and talk to the IPOs, because that's the main thing I hear from all the guys all the time. And a lot of them are scared of the IPOs because they feel if I kind of poke the bear and fight for my rights and my dates to be released, is there going to be any um, harboring hidden feelings on a professional level and they become biased? So, for example, I think it was last September, I went to 7 different penitentiaries in Kingston, and I found a common denominator.
Why are you following up with them?
Oh,
Hi,
here we go. Sorry, I think somebody was just not on mute for a
okay,
second.
all right.
There we go.
Continue my thought. Squirrel,
Yes, sorry.
Kingston. Um, yes, found a common denominator. And what I mean by that is I was talking to certain individuals and they said, Dirk, my last IPO was ready to send me to a minimum, or my last IPO was going to put me in for UTAs. I go, well, what happened to that PO? They're like, well, I got a new PO. I go, okay, so that new PO, don't they trust the professionalism of the prior PO to pick up where that PO left off? Why do they have to start again fresh? So the new PO always says, no, I got to get to know you. But the problem is that's a delay tactic because they're swamped. There's so many guys coming in doing 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. They got to get in front of the parole board. They're the ones that have to have the release plans done immediately. They're the go-tos. So the IPOs are limited. So who you think gets the sluff? And by the time it comes around to helping that individual, now they got to get another reclassification scale done. Now they have to get another risk support done. Now they're on another list and they get bumped down off that list for somebody else that's getting released earlier. So I started to realize, I was like, okay, well, maybe this is just happening with one person in the institution. Then the conversation continued. 5, 6 other people for one institution. And these 5 or 6 lifers, they may know each other's face, but they don't hang in the same circle. And they're all saying the same thing. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just this jail that does that. Then I went to the other 6 penitentiaries and I heard the same tactic. It's just over and over and over and over and over. I got a new PO. They got to get to know me. And I'll turn around and say, okay, well, if your dates were there, why aren't you? Why don't want to poke the bear? So with the man, I honestly believe to go back to the question of CSC, because I think it was a two-part question, if I remember correctly.
Oh, it was the main barriers and challenges
I,
related to reintegrating. Yeah. So it
I
sounds like you're,
believe
yeah, two
it's, I
parts being
believe,
like one is just getting out, but then also what are
yeah,
the barriers
yeah,
after?
and it's the definitely with the IPOs. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to throw them under the bus. I just feel that if some other professional from CSC went in there that had authority, that had say, that had influence, and spent the time to go to the institutions and build a team and go to the bottom and have a meeting with all the IPOs and hear their struggles and try to figure out how they can fix things for them. Maybe hire more IPOs. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
So I feel that that's the main struggle in regards to especially lifers.
Okay. What about for lifers when they actually get out? Did you maybe speak to, I don't know if that, Abdullah, if that was a part of your question as well, but in
Yeah,
terms of the actual once people are released, what are some of those main challenges once
I
they
I I really honestly wish they could be a little bit more not mentally prepared because I think they are mentally prepared, but a little bit more of how the real world works prepared. A lot of my lifers are released, they don't have IDs. They get 2 weeks worth of supplies of medical. Um, um, they're, sorry, I can't think of the word, medications that they're
Mhm.
on. So if you don't have any ID and you don't have your health card, you don't have anything put away, and your taxes sometimes haven't been done, there should be a little bit more preparation for this person to be released and hit the ground running. It's nice to be released, but now you're having all these slight anxiety and panic attacks. And if you don't have a peer support worker and you've been incarcerated for 40 years, and now there's all smartphones and apps, and you tap to pay things, is not really cash anymore. This is a hard transition for anybody to rewire themselves. So I feel they should be better equipped and also have a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more ammunition to hit the ground running and be a little bit more prepared because there would be less struggles on the CRFs.
Yeah. Thank you. Good answer. I'm gonna shift a little bit with the next question. Brianne, sorry, says, "Hi Dirk, thanks for being open to questions. I wonder if there was a moment you knew, oh, there you are, Brianne. Do you want to ask the question or you want me to read it? Go for it."
Hi, Dirk. Thanks so much. So my question, a lot to what you're speaking to, I do case management with folks that are coming out of custody, and everything you're saying is so on point. It's really cool to hear from you. So what I want to ask was if there was a moment or maybe a sign where for you, you recognized I'm ready to go into peer work. A lot of my clients have a goal of doing peer work, and a lot of what we work through are their triggers and knowing when they're ready to actually do that work. We've had some experiences where folks start the peer work and it does bring them back a little bit, and we do a little bit more work again. And so I will never have that lived experience that my clients do. I can only walk alongside them so much. And I this is always the part where I'm like, I don't know if it's going to be a moment that you realize it. I don't know if it'll be in a situation where you walk away and say, you know what, I actually feel okay. And a lot of those were my triggers. I don't know if there was just a moment for you that said, I'm ready to switch over and dedicate myself to this. And if you could speak to that, that would be amazing.
Yes.
Great question.
Well, even though I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years, I still have triggers. So working through those triggers and becoming more immune to them by working through them. Going back to the institutions, first time I went back to Millhaven, of course it was triggering. Then I go back another time with Danielle, and it wasn't as triggering. But during that trip, I saw two of my close friends I started my incarceration with. So even though the institution didn't trigger me, seeing my fellow lifers that I haven't seen for a long, that triggered me. But going through it prepared me more. I still have triggers, and the mental preparation for it in regards for me was, am I gonna be able to not be biased? Am I gonna be able to treat this lifer who may or may not have done their time in a stand-up way through a certain person's eyes? The Dirk Young 20 years ago would not have talked to some of the people that I bend over backwards to help now. So, changing that belief system and rewiring myself, once I did that and I stopped looking at people a certain way, which I think alleviates a lot of the incarceration that I was letting go inside of me. Oh, that guy's a rat. He's a PC. He killed his wife. Kid killer, blah, rapist, blah. Once I started getting away from all of those things, it was a lot easier for me to accept an individual and look at him as a lifer. And a lot of guys that I go back to visit have also changed their ways in regards to how they do their time. At one point, we might have started off in the hierarchy of being stand-up men coming from a stand-up institution. And now, because they've been incarcerated for 20 years and went through the struggles and the addictions and the abuse and the traumas and the torment, maybe they've made some mistakes and now they went to protective custody. But that doesn't stop me from still loving them.
Great answer. Thanks, Dirk. Great question, Brianne. Thank you.
Yeah, Brianne, that was a tough one.
Okay, Dirk, our next question, they keep rolling in. So I'm going to say when our next question is from Karina. So when people are released and move into second stage housing, and as a housing support worker, what would you suggest in terms of best practice to support them without making them feel it is just another staff member following them and to assist with making their housing placement successful? So maybe just thinking a little bit beyond the halfway house, moving into housing, if you're working as a housing support worker, what are some best practices to make them feel that it's not just, that it is more about that positive support network? I think maybe if I can
Yeah,
read into Karina's question a little bit further, that it's not just about being that staff person, but it's also just about being that positive support for somebody. And how do you do that over the long term to help make their next steps into the community successful?
it's a I definitely could talk about that for an hour, so I'll try to speed this one up. Different strokes, different folks, 100%. I've had men that are dying to get their own place. Um, and I've had other men that feel they're going to be forgotten upon release. Um, so struggling with that, and also when you're coming from the CRF and you're moving into your own place, my mission statement's a little bit different than St. Leonard's. I want them to feel safe going into the community. Not only do I want the community to feel safe with a lifer coming to them, but I want my lifers to feel safe going into the community with them. There's a lot of fear based there. I also want them to know I'm still there, even though you're not part of the CRF. You still have my number, you still have supports. I remember bringing a couple of elderly guys that were about to get their own apartments, and I would bring them to my home, sit them down on the couch and turn on the TV, hand them the remote, and I'd go outside for 5 minutes and have a cigarette. And when I come back in, I know that 5 minutes has made them feel, oh, I can do this. This is kind of nice having my own place. This, so I try to remove a little bit of the fear and to answer the question, if I was trying to help them with housing and push forward, I think it's trying to alleviate a lot of the fear based behind it. So if you can just guide them and let them know that they're going to be okay and create some positivities in regards to the things that they might enjoy. I often tell the guys in the house, where you're going on your weekend passes to your new apartment, it might be silent, it could be great, or maybe you're not used to it being silent and you need a little bit of the noise. So I've had a man recently move out of here, was not a lifer, but stayed here over a year, got himself a one-bedroom apartment, and within a couple of days, he called me and he's like, you know what? I've been back to the halfway house twice for lunch just because I'm not used to the silence. And I was like, that's okay, but it will come. But having those conversations are nice for this person to feel vulnerable enough to say that instead of being bravado and be like, oh, life is great. I can't, oh, so much peace and quiet. And that's the truth in it. Some people. So I think, to be honest with you, there is a long-winded answer. I apologize. Like I said, I could talk to this subject alone for an hour, along with many examples. But I think trying to make it positive. I try to tell some of the men in the house, imagine going out after midnight just because you want to have a walk. It's a nice summer night. And they're like, oh. And I was like, imagine not calling in every 4 hours or letting them know where your destinations are. Oh, I try to give them a little bit of, you know, positive vibe to moving forward. And also try to explain to the man in this house, please do not get complacent. Please do not get too comfortable. It is a stepping stone to the next part of your life. When I go pick up men from the train station or they're being released, I often tell them, welcome to the first day of the rest of your life. But while they're in the halfway house, I try to let them know this is just another stepping stone for you to move forward. So take advantage of everything you can get start saving up some stuff, start getting some furniture, go to yard sales, get a microwave, get a toaster. That way you don't have to drop $2,000 when you first move out, accumulate things, build your links out here. Don't jump on the first job just because you think that's the only one that's worthy. If you don't like it, take advantage of the fact that you're in a halfway house. You can let it go and move forward and try something new. And don't be afraid to fail, because for a long time, I would take 10 steps forward, fall back 8 steps, and concentrate on the 8 steps I failed, not realizing each year I gained 2 steps. After 5 years, I have 10 steps. I have a car, I have a license, but I constantly just concentrated on the failures, not realizing that. So, with my men, when it comes to housing specifically, I try to remove the fear of it.
That's a great answer. I think you also like, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like it's just making people comfortable with a new routine, right? After you've been in such a specific routine for such a long time, that it's just
Thank you.
that mental preparation for what a new routine might feel like, and being open to just trying on that feeling for a little bit and
Yeah.
getting used to that.
I hope that answered the question.
People are feel free to jump in if you have follow-up questions here. We've got a bit of time left, but I am going to push us ahead. Lots of supportive comments for you as well, just acknowledging the important work that you do and the heavy lifting. I'm going to read this question from Jen, who I'm sure tells you this regularly. But Dirk, super proud of you and all that you do. You are an invaluable member of the staff. And to the residents, I am better at my job because of the insight you provide. Thanks for being in the trenches with me. So can let that lift your spirits while I find the next question for
I
you.
think she's in the next room. I
Yeah.
heard that, Jen.
So I think the next question is that's a great question. Another great question from Maris. Have you noticed if there are less opportunities for inmates in 2026 than in the past to work on issues and opportunities to engage in productive and positive change?
Um,
People have less opportunities now to work on themselves.
I just, as soon as I heard that question from Maris, hi Maris, instantly started thinking about all the things that have been removed from the institutions and all the opportunities that are out here. There's a lot more help for mental health. There's a lot more help for housing. There's a lot more help for subsidized housing. There's a lot more help for medical medications, doctors. But my mind gravitates to the things that have been removed institutionally. So to me, it was at the out here, I think they have more
Yeah,
now.
but I'm referring to in the institutions, Dirk.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Definitely not. 100%. I do not believe, I think they have less than what they even had before. 100%.
Okay.
Um, just jobs in nature, just the things they used to be able to do when they were in there. When I first went to the institution, I heard people used to work in wood shops and metal shops and get out with trades, and now CSC turns around and says, "Well, we don't stop you from doing schooling." Yeah, but you don't give us the correct equipment. We're working off Windows 2007, and how teachers don't even mark stuff anymore. We don't get everything's the way that are talking right now. So how are you supposed to complete post-secondary schooling or get a degree like Mr. Rick Sauvier? Even if Mr. Rick Sauvier right now was incarcerated, how would he have gotten the degrees that he got? The systems are changed. You can't keep up. You can't. So the institutions, no, there's nothing there for them. There's absolutely nothing. They can say there is, but there's not.
Okay, Dirk, we got a little bit more time. I'm going to try and do my best to get through the last three questions and then wrap up our hour. But you've done great. So the next question is, what are some effective strategies? These are questions we received in advance. So in case people are wondering where I'm getting these questions from, we asked people to send in questions in advance when they registered. So what are some effective strategies to recruit potential mentors to work with justice involved individuals? So how do we bring people into this space to have more folks like you to do this work what I would add to the question, in a responsible way? in terms of being, I think we've had some questions about readiness and I think that's really important to name. But how could we get more people recruited to from a strategy perspective to do this work?
I feel a lot of people are interested upon release of doing the peer support work. It's the idea of it sounds lovely. And then life takes hold. Now you realize, oh, I gotta pay rent, I got bills, I got that. I want to go out and try to find a partner. When you start working on yourself, you kind of disappear from that. I want to be a peer support worker, and life takes over. So originally, if there was a program somebody could take in the beginning that they might be able to fall back on after a few years. So for me, I honestly don't believe that anybody that's been out for under 3 years should actually be a peer support worker, unless they've been out before and went back and got out and they were out for many years prior. Because I think you need to go through a little bit of life and work on yourself before you can come back. And it's almost like that analogy I heard when you're on a plane and it's about to crash. You kind of got to put the oxygen mask on for yourself first before you can rescue somebody else.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't think I would have been that great of a peer support worker if I had this role immediately. But I would love to have had a chance to explore it and do some schooling or have something there to fall back on down the road where, well, it's been 3, 4 years. It's in the back of my mind. I think I'm prepared. I think I'm ready to take on, but there's a lot of negativity too. You got to learn to work through the balances. And for me, it was a lot of growing pains. Recently, my co-worker and friend is going through one of those growing pains of being a peer support worker. And a few years ago, I had to learn how to tell some people no and some people to fuck off and let go of some people that I thought was taking advantage. Or there has to be a balance there. And a lot of times, people have always asked me, "Well, what do you do for yourself, Dirk?" And I'm still yet to really answer that question. I still struggle with that. But this year, I told myself I'm gonna pull away from doing a lot more of that and be a little bit more selfish. I deserve to be a little bit more selfish and not be stuck in this spider web where everyone's tingling me at the same time and I'm just running over. So I hope that kind of answered the question a little.
Yeah, I think so. I think you've named what I think is really important about the question of how do you take care of yourself in this line of work. And I think what's really important that anyone in frontline services are working directly with people who have a lot of really challenging or complex needs is the importance of boundaries, right? And having boundaries training and things that help you define what those lines are to be able to
Good.
take care of yourself and do that. One of the last question we had was making these networks and sustainable, right? And I think that part of sustainability is knowing how to take care of yourself so that you can keep that oxygen mask on yourself and help the others around you. And so I think you answer that in a really beautiful way. So I guess just to close off as a final question in terms of the theme of our webinars and the fact that we're really trying to align these with the pillars of the federal framework to reduce recidivism.
Mhm.
Could you try and answer why what you do by offering a positive support to people is actually contributing to people's success over the long term, how you're making communities safer, how you are maybe being part of that solution to this whole federal government of Canada objective to,
Yeah,
have a measurable reduction in people going back to prison. And like it or not, you're a part of that piece,
yeah,
right? In terms of what we're trying to do as a country, through legislation, through, different acts and strategies and everything else that we get sort of pulled into that. So what is it that you think that you're doing that helps to contribute to advance this federal objective of reducing recidivism and contributing to long-term results for people?
Basically everything that I do. To answer that question, every little thing I do contributes to that 100%, and on all levels. Receiving a call last night from a fellow man, talked to him for about an hour on the phone. He's in a medium, explaining to him that the CRF's not going to take you for a medium. He was steadfast on, I'm never going to a minimum. Well, today he's just put in his paperwork to go to a minimum. Having those conversations and having those men, while they're incarcerated, being able to reach out, just like I had the John Dunbars and the Rick Sauviers, and to create hope. And also, when somebody feels a little bit lost while they're out here, there's still a safety net. That's one of the things I love about um, St. Leonard's Windsor, is men often come back to have lunch. There's a family feeling out here. There's a reliability. There's a trust thing. And I think with all our agencies working together, and the peer support, to me, is necessary, and not just in this organization.
Yeah.
Like, it could be anywhere. Street health. Why not have a person that's walk the walk? For I always say this all the time, and some people get it, some people don't. If I was married and I had to go to a marriage counselor, but that counselor was not married ever, there's going to be a little thing inside of my head that says, okay, you get it, but you don't get it. Or if I was there to discuss my children, but this person's never had children, I'd be like, you get it, but you don't really get it. You're there, you sympathize, but you don't get it. You can't help feeling that way if they're not from the same lived experience. Um, Even if the person was married, but you're there to have go through divorce, you're gonna think, well, you get it, but you don't get it. You're still married. You're not where I'm at yet. So meeting people where they are at, and also providing that, like I said, being a peer support worker wears many hats. So you got to be able to juggle all kinds of different hats, um, and just having them have men and women trust you because you've been through what they've been through. You've seen what they've seen. You can talk to them. For example, we all know my coworker, my friend that I mentioned earlier. Unfortunately, she can't be here. I guarantee you, me and her can have a different fucking conversation than what she could have with you. Even though she loves you guys and trusts you guys, and we're all on the same team, there's something different there when it comes to lifers, where it's, and I
Yeah.
think that is huge when it comes to the peer support. So public safety, public risk, having peer supports out here that are being successful to a certain point, um, encourages everybody. And having them come back to the institutions and create that type of hope. Be like, okay, all right, I just saw Dirk. I haven't saw him in 10 years, but if he can do it, I can do it. He looks a little fatter than he used to, but hey, he must like Burger King. But that's life.
Yeah.
It gives him something to look forward to.
Absolutely. I think what you've articulated is the difference between many of us work in this space and have empathy, but you can have lots of empathy, but you don't necessarily have the experience, right? And those things, there's value in the experience as well.
Thank you.
And I think that you've named that really nicely. Dirk, it is always a pleasure to talk to you. You have such a great way of filling time in an hour, and I
Thank you.
knew we could go unscripted and have no problem. I'm sure we could have doubled the time on this. But I do want to take a couple of minutes before people have to take off to just say thank you to you, and thank you to Leanna also, who was going to present and I know was ready to do this
Yes.
work today. And so I want to thank both of you for your willingness to share your stories and be open, and Catherine, who I know is beside you, who's my colleague as well, and you know, we just a lot of gratitude for all of you to create space for these really important conversations and share be so open about sharing your experience and your insights to us. So thank you to also to everyone who's come out today. I know it's an interesting time of year for many of us who are trying to wrap up financials and everything else. So your attendance is all the more appreciated. We have created a post-webinar evaluation survey to help St. Leonard's Canada improve for future webinars. So we're going to post that in the chat for you, and hopefully you can take a second there with the last few minutes of the meeting here to answer that. And then we are also going to put the link to register for our next webinar, which is going to take place on April 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be talking about employment as part of the federal framework to reduce recidivism. And so we're going to post that in the chat as well. And we'll send some follow-up emails after today for all of you who have registered to share the recording from our session. And we'll follow up again with the links to the survey and the next webinar registration. So we hope to see all of you on April 15th. And again, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today. And thank you, Dirk. Always lovely to see you.